What's up, everybody? It's Andrew from the Jaguar podcast, and today we have a special guest, Jaguars YouTuber JaguarGator9. What's up, man? How's it going?
It's going well. Can't wait for football to start. Thank you for having me on. It's gonna be a lot of fun. It'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. And you do some really great content, man. I mean, it's definitely it spans the entire gamut. I mean, it's Jaguars content, it's trivia stuff, and some really interesting videos, man. So kudos to you.
Thank you. Yeah, I've been fortunate enough to do this full time for a living. So thanks to a lot of support. So thank you guys so much for making it happen. It's a dream. I love calling stuff about the NFL. Love talking about that, and love just hanging out with guys on stream. So thank you guys so much for everything, and thanks for having me on.
Yeah, and I mean, also, I'm super impressed with the helmet collection behind you. I mean, that must have taken a while to build up.
Oh, it's impressive. It's a lot. It's a lot. I got it for like every single team in the NFL. So I switch out the helmets based on whatever team I'm talking about. So if I have to do like a Packers video or something, or I'm calling a Packers game, I got a ton of Packer helmets behind me. I got Eagle helmets. I got I have like probably like 800 helmets at this point. It's just like boxes on top of boxes, like everything in storage. It's a mess, but we're making it work.
That's impressive, though. Can you tell kind of our listeners, like, how did you become a Jaguars fan?
Yeah, so I really started watching football in like 2005. It was really when I first remember watching or starting to watch football. And I lived in New York growing up. And I knew I didn't want to be a Jets fan or a Giants fan. I didn't want to root for any of those teams because I knew I was going to leave New York as soon as I could. And I didn't want to be like everyone else. So I was watching the Jaguars play on Sunday Night Football on ESPN against the Bengals. We won that game. And I saw bonus coverage in New York when the Jaguars beat the Steelers. Tally Maddox threw a pick six to Rasheed Mathis. And those games back to back. At that point, I was like, okay, I guess they're my team at this point. So I've been a fan since 2005 and been watching ever since.
Awesome. Yeah, man. And Rasheed Mathis, what a player, man. That just always reminds me of that one game where they were playing the Steelers. I forget what year it was. Maybe it was 2007. And was it Tommy Maddox threw that game-winning or that game-losing interception to Rasheed?
No, that was the game. That was the game in 2005. That was the game that I started like becoming a fan.
Yeah.
That was the game. Like Mathis really got me in.
Yeah, for me, it was like, back in 95, my dad was a Washington fan, and we were living in South Carolina. And then the Jags became an expansion team in 95. And it was like the Jags and the Panthers. And I don't know, man, I have to say the logo and the helmet and the jerseys kind of sold me. And then that 96 playoff run, man, it was just insane.
That's where South Carolina, you wouldn't become a Panthers fan. They came around the same time. I don't know how that happens, but
yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. Just I was also a Gator fan. Also, I'm assuming you're a Florida fan as well.
Oh yeah.
And Freddie T, man, Fred Taylor, definitely one of my favorite Jaguars players. Just watching him getting the opportunity to watch him play and just some of those insane runs that he had. I mean, it's just it's fun stuff there.
Love that, man. He should be in the Hall of Fame. He should be in the Hall. Got to make it happen.
Yeah, definitely underrated. But yeah. So let's jump into some Jaguars here. The draft, obviously that came up. Watched it pretty heavy, and I know you did as well. Pretty focused on that. I think it was an okay draft, but I'm kind of interested in your take and how'd you feel about it?
Yeah, so the draft was kind of a mixed bag for me. The draft was kind of a mixed bag because on one hand, I feel like Trent Baalke just stinks at trading up. I feel like Trent Baalke had so many chances to trade up in this draft, and it was the same thing last year in the draft where we just had to take all the guys that were on the board at that point instead of trading up for some other guys. And he basically said the market wasn't good and like he couldn't work any trades, but it was 2 straight years now that he's done that. And other teams have worked trade ups before, so I don't know like what Baalke's doing in terms of the trades. The other thing with the draft, another thing with the draft that really disappointed me was just the interior of the offensive line. I feel like the offensive line, we didn't do anything. we got Mitch Morse, who hasn't had a good preseason, but we had him. I think the strategy with the Jaguars this offseason was all we had to do was replace Luke Fortner, and we're okay. We just had to replace Luke Fortner, but we still stunk at running outside the tackles. We still stunk on the short yardage situations. Does one guy really change that much? I don't think he does, but we treated this offseason and the draft like it did. We drafted no other interior offensive lineman, even though Tyler Shatley is going to retire at the end of this year. So that's going to be a depth piece that we got to fill up starting in 25. You could develop that now, but we didn't do that. We didn't get anyone for agency on the interior of the line besides Morse. Wasn't crazy about the draft. Mason Smith, I wasn't crazy about that pick because he had a bad season last year, though he's had a very good preseason. So we'll see which version of Mason Smith we get. If we get the 2022 version, we're cooking. The 2023 version, not so much, but we seem to have the good version right now. The one pick I did like a lot was Miles Cole in the 7th round. I think in the 7th round, you're drafting for traits. Obviously, Miles Cole, very raw, but at the same time, you look at him, he's 6'6". He's an absolute beast. He has a physical specimen. You can easily you can develop him, and he's had a very solid preseason. 7th round at that point is just a crapshoot. You're just drafting for traits and hoping for the best, and he's got a very good athletic score, very good raw score. So I like that pick a lot, and I wasn't crazy about Cam Little as a draft pick just because there were so many kickers in the UFL that you could have gotten, like Matt McCrane. You could have gotten Andre Smizet. I was like, why waste a pick on a kicker? But having watched him this preseason, I will gladly take that back because Cam Little. Love the guy. So, yeah, draft was a bit of a mixed bag for me. But we'll see how it plays out on the field. But so far, I mean, preseason, based on what I've seen with the players that we drafted, I like it.
Yeah, same here. A little bit of a mixed bag for me. I mean, Brian Thomas Jr., he could be one of those guys that develops, I think, and it'll just be, time will tell. But what I've seen, again, in the preseason, it's looked pretty promising. But I was thinking maybe we went corner in the 1st round. I was thinking maybe we did that with forget his name. Was it Kenyon Mitchell or
Mitchell or sorry, Terrion Arnold. I really want Terrion Arnold. That was a guy.
Yeah. So I was surprised we didn't go corner. Also very surprised we didn't draft any interior linemen. I was thinking maybe we went, Cooper Beebe from Kansas, University of Kansas.
Oh yeah. I wanted him like round 2 or 3.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of going for. But yeah, we didn't upgrade any of the offensive line. So that's concerning. I mean, especially when Trevor, he's had some injury trouble there last season. I think it could be a concern going in there, but we'll see what happens, man. I don't know, maybe we put an extra back, there, or maybe put a tight end back there to help with pass protection. Like, I'm just hoping that our offensive line can hold up because we're definitely, like you said, going to have to make some investments there, especially in the interior.
Oh yeah, especially because we don't know like what happens after this year. Like Cam Robinson might be gone after this year. Like we don't know what's going to happen with the line. Mitch and Brandon Sheriff, he's gone after this year.
Yeah.
He's kind of disappointed. Like last year, you can't trust on him to stay healthy. He never stays healthy for a full season. He's been around for a decade at this point. So there's going to be injuries happening to the line. I don't think we have the depth to do that. We don't have the starters to do it. We don't have the depth to do it. Tackles are fine. Like I like Anton Harrison, Cam Robinson, but interior, a lot of work. We need a lot of work there.
Yeah. Ezra, I think, I don't know. That might be maybe like a patch, just for now. And just
big long-term contract for a guy that wasn't really that great last year. Didn't really show a whole lot last year. We gave him a big long-term contract.
Yeah, and one thing that also annoyed me about the draft, and I'm sure you've been following this, is like, how do you draft a running back 3 drafts in a row, right? I mean, like, I don't know. It's just like that and linebackers. It seems like Balky loves running backs and linebackers. Like,
well, I think the thing with Robinson, the thing with Keelan Robinson was that was supposed to be the kick returner with the new rules, 2 kick returners. So I don't look at Robinson as a running back. I don't think he's gonna I don't know if he's gonna make the roster, but even if he does, I don't think he's gonna get a single carry at running back. I think he's back there as the kick returner alongside Duvernay. Now the problem is that Parker Washington, I don't know if he's gonna be in the starting lineup, but he kind of took over that kick return role and he's been phenomenal. So now you're gonna have Duvernay and Washington back there. Kind of makes Robinson a moot point. But I think the idea is if Washington gets into the starting lineup, you have Robinson and Duvernay as your return guys. So I think that was like, I don't view that in the same vein as like the Stoop Connor Tank Bigsby picks. I think he's like a kick return specialist.
Yeah, and I mean also Deonis Johnson, he can return kicks too. So it's like I see him making the roster. I mean, I think Dearness Johnson had a pretty good preseason, so I don't know. I feel like he'll probably make the team. I guess we'll get to there in a second, but yeah, some big contracts in the off season. You know, Josh Allen, that one, Josh Hines Allen, excuse me, and then yeah, and then can you imagine how many jerseys people are going to have to buy now because of that? Maybe it was good for business, but anyways, the yeah, we had the obviously the Trevor Lawrence extension and then the Tyson Campbell extension. I want to talk about the Trevor Lawrence extension. What are your thoughts on that?
I love it. His franchise quarterback. I love it. The thing is that if you have a top 12 quarterback in this league, you don't let him walk. You don't mess around. You don't let him walk. And yeah, people are going to say it's a lot of money, given a guy over $50 million a year that has done, he's been good, but not like top 5. People are going to say it's a lot of money, but remember, the market resets every year. The market resets every single year. That contract already became a bit of a bargain after the Jordan Love deal and the Tua deal. After that, like we got in before those deals, which was really good. Dak's going to get his money. Purdy's going to get his money. It's going to reset the market that way. Like remember a decade ago when Joe Flacco got $29 million a year and everyone was like, that's a massive overpay. Now $29 million a year for a quarterback is like nothing. Yeah. Nothing. You have to look at it not for the money. You have to look at it for the salary cap. You have to look at it as what percentage of the cap is he taking up. And Trevor Lawrence is taking up about 15% of the cap. And I think most teams would tell you, yeah, that sounds about right. So you look at the money or like $250 million for Trevor. I don't know about that. But if you look at it from a percentage of the salary cap, 15%, that's about on par with what you're paying guys at that top position. And remember, the Jaguars have been no quarterbacks in franchise history. The Jaguars have really struggled at quarterback for a long, long time. Trevor's a franchise guy. You pay your franchise guy. You lock him up. You have him until 2031 at the absolute earliest. And you don't even worry about that. You don't have like a Cowboys situation where you don't know what the situation is there with Prescott and getting a long-term deal done. The market's going to reset next year. Probably the highest paid quarterback's going to make $60 million. And then Trevor's deal is going to look cheaper. Like we saw, we're having Christian Kirk. Everyone was like, that's a huge overpay. Now that contract looks like an underpay. Not saying Trevor's going to be an underpay at $50 million a year, but he is going to be right where the market is. It's not overpaying the market. We knew he was going to reset the market, and it worked out that way.
Yeah. I think they gambled, and it was a good move. It's always a gamble. You never know what the market's going to be like. I mean, but I think they got in. They got it done. It's not it's no drama about it going into the regular season, which is good. So Trevor can focus, and it's just I agree with you. I think they did a good job with that. I also think they did a good job with Tyson Campbell too. I think he can be a solid player there. I did have some injury trouble last year, so I think there's a lot to be desired there. I think he's coming into this year with a lot to prove, especially after getting this contract. But I think he could be a solid defensive back there for us. I mean, I think he's proven it, and I think he's a good culture guy. Like he's a guy who's gonna put his head down and work real hard. So
yeah, Campbell's the one where if it was between Campbell and Cisco to sign before the start of the year, I would have rather done Cisco. Campbell's a bit of a question mark for me because obviously 2022 he was a top 5 corner in football. I believe it was a top 5 corner in football. 2023 obviously not so much. 2023 now he did have injury history and he did have some stuff, but half his time in Jacksonville, the second half of 21 and 22, he was great. The first half of 21 and the end of and the whole 2023 season, he was bad and couldn't track the ball, and he was getting beat, and it wasn't good. I don't know which version of Campbell we're going to get, especially because Ryan Nielsen is defensive coordinator. He likes playing a lot of man and press, and Campbell's really more of a zone corner, so I don't know how he's going to fit the scheme necessarily. I would have rather had Campbell still on the final year of his contract than re-sign Cisco if it was between that as the two options for long-term contracts. But Campbell's had a good preseason. That game against Atlanta, I mean, granted, they were playing the backups, but Campbell did look very good. He looked like he was comfortable in the press. He was all over. He was making some nice plays on the ball. So if we get that version of Campbell, this contract's going to look very, very good.
Yeah, and I think you also have to take into account some of the free agent, the other corners that are coming up for contract too. I don't know if AJ Terrell recently got a deal, but I think he's trying to get one from the Falcons. And then
Just got one like a few days ago.
Yeah. And then I think Ramsey might be up for one soon. So it's like, who knows, right? It's a gamble. You don't know what what people are going to get and how the market's going to be set when one person gets that contract. So I think they did a good job in that sense, but I do agree it is kind of a lot to look out for in terms of like, I think he's got a lot to prove, Campbell, this year. So yeah, we'll see what happens. It'll be interesting with this Ryan Nielsen defense. I mean, I think you're going to see a mixture of some, 4-3, 3-4, and then I like how you said as well with the pass coverage, going to more man and press. I don't know how that's. I honestly feel like though I think our secondary might be a little bit of the weakest link. I think from the defense, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, cornerback depth, I'm not crazy about. And obviously, Ronald Darby is the number 2 on the outside. He was good last year, but you never know. He's up there in age, and once you fall off a cliff, you fall off a cliff. And I don't know if that's going to happen with Darby, but he was good last year. It's an easy out if he stinks this year. Would have liked to have done a bit more cornerback, but I do like Tyson Campbell a lot. Just hope he gets back to his form. But if Darby plays like he did last year, Campbell gets back to what he did in 2022, we're okay. Obviously, depth is a bit of a concern there, but I did like the Jerry and Jones pick from Florida State, and we'll see. We'll see what he does. I guess we'll see what he does. Its potential depth. I don't know who's going to play nickel. Is it going to be Savage or Braswell? I don't know. They keep alternating. Like depth chart's not really clear on if it's going to be Braswell or Savage. That's really the spot I'm worried about. I'm really worried about the nickel spot because I look at the Texans. You look at the Texans of 3 wide receivers. You line 3 up outside. Nico Collins, Tank Dell, Stephon Diggs. Whoever's on the nickel corner, I'm just terrified at that point. I'm terrified of that one. But we'll see on that. I guess we'll see how that plays out with the secondary. It's a bit inexperienced.
Yeah, I heard that Savage might be the guy, but I also heard some talk of maybe Antonio Johnson. That was earlier, before training camp, but I haven't heard really anything more about moving Johnson into like the nickel corner spot, which, I don't know. We'll see what happens there. But yeah, I am concerned there as well because that could be a problem with teams, like you said, the Texans. So let's go into training camp, 53-man roster that's about to be released soon. I think it's tomorrow? Is it Tuesday? Yeah. So what are your thoughts? Any players to look out for? Anyone you're kind of excited to see if they make the roster?
Yeah. I mean, there was a bit of a shock today when Travis Gibson got traded to Seattle. I thought he was going to make the 53. He had a very good preseason. I thought he was going to be the next man up, but they really like Yasir Abdullah, so I guess he's going to be the next guy at the edge spot. So Travis Gibson gone, so that frees up a spot. The stuff I'm interested in for the 53, wide receiver 6. I don't know who's going to be 6. It's going to be Tim Jones or Elijah Cooks. I don't know. Because obviously you got 5. You got Duvernay, he's making it. Kirk's making it. Brian Thomas is making it. Parker Washington's making it. And Gabe Davis is making it. Who's the 6, Cooks or Jones? I thought it was going to be Jones, and then after the Atlanta game where Jones going down the ball at the 1-yard line and Cooks had a nice play, had a few nice plays actually in that one. I think Cooks might win the job. I also want to see if they carry 4 tight ends because we got Jaguar from Green Bay. I want to see if we carry 4. He'd be really a blocking guy. And running back, I don't know what we're going to do with Robinson. I don't know if we're keeping 3 or if we're keeping 4. If we keep 3, obviously we know it's ETN, Bigsby, and Dearness Johnson. If we keep 4, Robinson would probably make it, but we didn't see anything from him in preseason because he was hurt. So yeah. maybe he starts the season on a reserve list potentially. I'm not sure, but we know that Trevor's the 1, Mac Jones is the 2 at QB. Beathard's probably the odd man out with the new rule change with the 53 that they have to be on the 50. Yeah. I wish the NFLPA didn't do that where it was 53 plus 1. Now it's just 53. So Beathard's probably the odd man out. I don't think you have any trade value for him. And obviously we saw what Beathard did behind that offensive line. Jones did behind that offensive line preseason. It was clear that Jones was the better quarterback. So Beathard's the odd man out. I don't know if we're going to keep 3 quarterbacks. Obviously he's number 3 if we do keep 3, but I don't know if we're going to keep 3. We haven't ever kept 3 with Peterson and Bulky. So
I know we signed EJ Perry.
I think that was just insurance because Beathard was hurt last week.
Yeah.
He's not making the team. He's not making it.
How do you feel about Austin Trammell? That's the one I'm kind of excited about. Like he could sneak in there because he had a nice preseason, both games, or those last 2 games, and then I don't know. Like I was thinking maybe he'd sneak in there and steal that spot between Jones and Cooks, but I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I don't know what he offers on special teams necessarily. He'll make it on the practice squad. He's not going to get poached by someone else. He'll make it on the practice squad. He's probably at this point wide receiver 8. I don't see him making the active roster at all. What he did do, which was really nice, is he was probably behind Denzel Mims before the start of training camp, And obviously, Trammell overtook Mims to the point where Mims was one of the first cuts. So Trammell probably will land on the practice squad.
Yeah, I can't believe that with Mims. I mean, he's just, I don't know. I thought maybe he would do something, but I'm surprised. I guess I'm a little surprised.
Yeah, he did nothing. He was a big time bust out of Baylor. Or second round pick, I expected a lot better. Or second round pick.
So, as we kind of conclude this episode, we go into I want to talk a little bit about the regular season prediction. Wanted to kind of pick your brain, and how do you see the Jags going this year for 2024?
It's tough. Because on one hand, the stuff I saw in preseason that I was iffy on, we are way better at than I thought. On the other hand, the stuff that I knew we were going to stink at, we're even worse at than I thought. Like interior offensive line, running to the outside, like we're even worse at that than I thought going in. But the stuff that I was iffy on, we seem to be okay. The problem is that schedule. The problem is that schedule over the first 4 weeks might be the toughest opening stretch in NFL history. And I don't say that lightly. I mean, you have 4 teams made the playoffs last year. You have Cleveland, you have Miami, you have Buffalo, and you have Houston. I mean, that's brutal. Yeah. That's absolutely brutal. And we might be behind the 8 ball to start off. I don't know with this team. If we can survive, we go 2-2 in the first 4, we're going to be okay.
Yeah.
I really think if we go 2-2 in the first 4, we're going to be okay. Problem is that if we don't, I could see easily us starting 1-3 or 0-4. I don't think we're going to start 0-4, but I could see a scenario where we do. We start 3-1, we're going to the Super Bowl. I can tell you that much. We start 3-1-4 now, we're going all the way. But obviously the second half of the schedule is a bit better. Honestly, I'm just worried about the offensive line. I'm worried too much about the offensive line. I don't think we did enough, and I don't know if Trevor's going to stay healthy for a full season behind that line. Obviously, there's the issues with Press Taylor calling the plays. I do like Ryan Nielsen as defensive coordinator. He can't be any worse than Caldwell, and I like the combo blitzes he showed off. But the play calling, I'm still a bit suspect on. Red zone offense and play calling. Obviously, red zone offense was good in the preseason. That game against Atlanta, we figured out it took long enough for a red zone offense to realize, oh, wait, just throw it up to Ingram, and it's okay.
Yeah.
But we'll see what happens with the red zone offense and the play calling. There's so many question marks with this team. Special teams, I don't think is going to be an issue because Cam Little looks really good. We're not going to have McManus situation like last year over the second half of the year. The secondary, I don't know if it's going to hold up. Linebackers, I want to see more development from Lloyd and Muma. I want to see more development from those guys, and obviously Ventrell Miller if he can stay healthy. Defensive line should be good now that Trayvon Walker is now putting his hand in the dirt, and our defensive coordinator Ryan Nielsen's not putting Allen and Walker out at linebacker in coverage, which never made any sense to me.
I hated that.
That was the worst. I'm like, what are you doing?
It's like, why is Josh Allen dropping into coverage? I mean, and he's not bad, but I mean, the thing is, it's just like, yeah.
Like you have one of the best pass rushing combos in football at the edges.
Yeah.
And then obviously if Armstead stays healthy, man, that defensive line is stacked. If they all stay healthy. I'm going to say with the Jaguars, I mean, it's tough with this team. It's really tough. I mean, I'm going to go 7-10, but the Jaguars are one of the few teams in football. You could tell me any record and I would buy it. You could say they finished 5-12 and I would be like, that makes sense. You could say they finished 12-5 and win the AFC South and I would buy that. Anything between 5-12 and 12-5, I can absolutely see. Nothing would shock me with this team. With Trevor, if he stays healthy and plays well like he has been, if the secondary holds up, if the red zone offense is good, if Bigsby plays like in the preseason and makes that step from year 1 to year 2, which I think he will, like this team could be really good. This team is really deep. This team could be really good. On the other hand, I think I'm just too worried about the offensive line and too worried about that first part of the schedule that I think this is going to be a 7-10 season, but I hope I'm wrong. I hope we're talking playoffs. That conference and that division is just so stacked that I don't know.
Yeah, I hear you, man. I could totally see them going 0-4 even in those first 4 games, even though I don't want that to happen. But I mean, that's a tough schedule. So yeah, totally agree with you there. I think, going back to what you were just talking about, the play calling, God, I think we were at one point, weren't we last season, like ranked in the top 3 for like screens? I think we threw so many screens last season. I was like, we got to stop doing that. Like we have to throw past the chains. Like it was just frustrating, man. Like it's just
Trevor can rip it. Yeah. Trevor can rip it. That's the crazy.
Like, why are we throwing screens? Why are we throwing bubble passes? Like, let him stretch out his arm and throw it downfield. Like, I don't know, just I couldn't understand it. But yeah, we got to be able to run the football too. I don't know, man. Like, I wish we would go back to like we did with Fred Taylor back in like the mid '90s. Like, put a fullback there. Like, just let him lead through the hole and help with the run blocking. I mean, I know last season we drafted what was it, Derek Parrish, and I don't know I didn't understand that pick because then he was released. But you know, put a tight end back there and let him run block put Brendan Strange back there and let him
Jaguar, but someone. And we're not using Strange as a second round pick. We might as well use it for something.
Yeah, he's a good blocker. I mean, he could block really well, and I just think he hasn't gotten an opportunity. Like, they just haven't been targeting him a lot. He's getting a lot of hate on Twitter, which I don't get. But
no, I mean, it was just like he's a solid player, just a reach or a pick. It's so like we have Luke Farrell, who's solid. We have Evan Ingram, who's a top 5 tight end. Like, what? Like, it was more of why do you draft tight end 3 potentially, who could at best be tight end 2 in the second round? Like, I think it was more of that compounded with Tank Bigsby as a backup running back. It's like, okay, day 2, you didn't draft any starters. I think that was really where the hate came from. I like Strange. I like Strange a lot, but I don't know how much he's going to play.
Yeah,
we like our best running, like in the last decade, was 2017 when we had Tommy Bohannon fullback. Like, that was when we ran the ball best. Like, I would know having a fullback like on those third and short situations. I would love that.
I love Tommy Bohannon, man.
What a legend.
He could catch out in the flats too, and he was awesome.
That touchdown against Pittsburgh, I was like, I lost my mind on that one. One of the greatest plays in Jags history. I can still picture 40 in the end zone. I can still picture wide open in the end zone, no one near him.
I was at a friend's house and he was a Steelers fan, and he had like a little upstairs balcony in his little townhouse. He's like, all right, you go upstairs, you're in timeout. Like, because I was cheering so hard. But yeah, man, what a game. But back to, you know, the record prediction. I see, maybe, unfortunately, I hate this record, but I think they're going to go 9-8 again. Yeah. And I hate that, but I think that they just have some tough games, and you know, they'll choke, they'll lay an egg a couple games that they should have won, right? Like, I think they should have won that Bengals game. That Ravens game, I don't know what was. You did a great video on that, by the way. I love that video.
Well, we crossed the ball like 6 times in the 40, and we didn't score a single time. Like, I was like, that game was cursed. That game was cursed.
He did a great video on that call where they stayed in bounds, right? It was like the last minute before halftime, and they threw a screen pass or something to Parker Washington, and he didn't get out of bounds, and that was, I remember me too. I was like watching that game, and I almost wanted to throw my drink. I was like, what? I was like, what are you doing? Like,
I love when it happens to other teams, but when it happens to my team, I'm like, oh god, that was like one of the worst calls of the year. We had a few like bad calls last year, like that. Like, we're good for like one bad call a month. We're like, what the heck are you doing? There was the end of the first half against Houston where you try that toss play to ETN, that toss play. There was the naked bootleg against Indy where we have the game won, and let's try a naked bootleg with Trevor Lawrence, and he gets hurt. Like, genius.
Press Taylor, right? Anyways, yeah. So I see him going 9-8, but I'm excited to see what happens this year. I think hopefully we can maybe get a wild card again and sneak into the playoffs, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, man, thanks for doing this. This is great, really fun talking Jaguars with you. And do you have anything you want to promote, or just kind of tell some of our listeners where they can find you?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. So I put videos out every single day about the history of the NFL on my channel on YouTube, JaguarGator9. It's got over 60,000 subs. We're building a community on there, and I stream about every single day. I'll stream all the primetime games. I'll stream Thursday Night Football, Sunday Night Football, Monday Night Football, the international games. I'll stream college football games on there. We'll do live trivia every Wednesday night. I give away cash prizes. So if you like NFL trivia and you want to test your knowledge, we give away cash prizes during a weekly game show. So we do that every Wednesday night. We do Q&A streams. We do College Football 25 streams. We do a lot of streams on the channel, but we do NFL history videos every single day on that channel. So go check it out if you like the history of the NFL. It's weird and wacky history that you probably have never heard of before. It's a lot of fun. And I have another channel called JG9 News, and that's just my thoughts on current events in the NFL, like Malik Willis getting traded from the Titans to the Packers, or just other stuff happening, like announcer pairings, TV maps, something that announcers said, some like transactions that happen in the NFL, coaching moves, just like off the cuff, no script, impromptu. I just get in front of the camera and talk like this and just talk about what's happening in the NFL today. So those are the 2 real channels, JaguarGator9 and JG9 News. So go check those out if you like the NFL and if you like the Jaguars.
Yeah, well, everybody give it up for JaguarGator9. He does great content, and you can definitely see it in the videos. It's great stuff. So thanks again, man, and we'll have to do this again sometime.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on. That was fun.
Duval! What's up, everybody? It's Andrew from the Jaguar podcast. Hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel as always. And remember, this is a podcast, so you can find this pretty much wherever you find podcasts. Subscribe to it. Go Jags, and I'll see you next time.